Hi there, and welcome to Mondays with Marlo. I'm so excited to have Anderson Cooper today. We've been wanting to get him for a year. You're busy. You're traveling.
A little busy.
You're on 60 Minutes. You're on CNN. You're in.
I got a daytime show. Yeah.
I mean, you're everywhere. You're everywhere.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
And people love you. So many questions for you. They obviously think you know everything. They can't wait to hear.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm no Nancy Snyderman.
No, you're not. Or Susie Orman.
Or Susie Orman, yes.
No.
I have no actual knowledge of anything. No skill.
But you do know what you know. That's what's important.
Okay.
The first question I think is really an interesting one. It's from Brianna. Hi, Brianna. She says, what's the first website or news service you check in the morning?
You know, Twitter is actually now
Really?
the first thing I check. It's the first thing I check and the last thing I check at night. And I check, all the different news services that I'm following on Twitter, because you get the headlines and then you can click on the articles that interest you.
Right.
So I don't even really go to websites anymore. I just do it through Twitter.
That's
and
amazing.
then I also check like what viewers are saying in the morning and also right before I go to bed.
Your viewers or
yeah,
the Twitter?
my viewers.
Your viewers.
People who are following me on Twitter who are writing
right,
to me, and then I try to send some tweets in the morning and send some tweets in the evening as well.
That's great. So not the papers. Do you check the papers?
Well, yeah, I mean, I read the Times, the Wall Street
Right.
Journal, yeah.
That's great.
And some websites too. I mean, I try to do a mix of like liberal sites and conservative sites and news sites and just kind of get a variety.
Well, you have to know a lot. I mean,
Try to, yeah. I mean, I'm checking stuff all day long. I'm following what's happening all day long.
Right. Ginny wants to know who's your mentor and why.
Who's my mentor? Well, there was a guy named Gordon Parks who was the first African-American photographer for Life magazine, first African-American to direct a Hollywood film. He directed Shaft.
Oh,
and
sure. He was an
amazing guy,
great.
yeah. And he was really the first journalist I knew. He was a close friend of my mom's and my dad's. So I knew him growing up. He used to be at the house all the time. And I think I sort of view him as a mentor, even though there was never like an official mentorship or anything. He was somebody whose example I, to this day, try to live up to and who accomplished so much. And
What was core to him that you want to do?
well, I mean, he really traveled. I mean, he really gave voice to people who had no voice, or whose voices, people who had no access to power, who weren't represented in the media. And, he told stories about people who hadn't had stories told about them before. He did a photo series on gangs in Harlem. He did stuff in the favelas in Brazil, about a little boy named Flavio. And so the fact that he was able to kind of take people to these worlds and give people a voice is something that I find very powerful and important.
Did he ever talk to you about it?
A little bit. I mean, I would talk to him a little bit about, places he had been. I mean, at the time that I knew him, he died only a couple of years ago, so I knew him as an adult. But really, as a teen is when I started reading a lot about him and, asking him questions about how he did what he did.
He must have been thrilled with what you did.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But, he was the coolest guy. I mean, I always say I didn't even know what cool meant, but I knew that he was cool.
Yeah, he was cool. I know. This is from Rachel. You recently had a guest on your show, the Barbie woman, and you abruptly ended the interview and she walked off the set. What were you feeling at the time, and why did you do that?
Yes.
I didn't see that.
Yes,
So what
this was on the
happened?
daytime show. This was a woman who, she's been labeled the human Barbie. She's had tons and tons of cosmetic surgery, and she now works for cosmetic surgeons. She's English, and she has given her 15-year-old daughter Botox. She has given her 7-year-old daughter a voucher for future liposuction and breast augmentation, and she also is teaching her 7-year-old to dance on a stripper pole.
Oh, God.
So to be honest, I didn't really, when you have a show like this, there's sometimes things fall through the cracks, and so I hadn't really done a ton of research on her before she was booked.
Right.
So she was booked on the show, and we had her on. And I'm talking to her, and I just thought she was dreadful. I just thought she was a dreadful person. And
you were live.
we were on tape, but we were live in some places. But her daughter was about her 7-year-old daughter was about to come out, and I just thought the whole thing was so dreadful. And so she so clearly wants publicity, and the fact that she, is getting her 7-year-old daughter to dance on a stripper pole, that's exploiting your kid.
Right.
And I just didn't want to be a part of it. So I really didn't want to be rude to her or anything or make a big deal of it, but I literally could not think of anything else to ask her. I asked her a couple questions. She was being kind of hostile. And I'm fine with dreadful people talking to them, and because I always think you can always learn something from somebody.
Right.
But I didn't even feel she was being honest in her answers. I thought she was just trying to get more publicity and being provocative.
Right.
And so I just said, you know what, I really can't do this, and I'm sorry. I try to be polite to everybody, but I think you're dreadful, and I just don't think we should talk anymore.
Wow.
And so she got up and left, and that was it. It was fine.
What did you do next?
I moved on. I mean, I don't know. We had some doctors on the show, and we had some other folks on the show who we just hadn't planned on having so soon.
Right,
but
right.
we just, I
Did
took a break and came back, and I sort of explained to viewers, look, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but I really don't want to just have dreadful people on who aren't, in my opinion, being honest about things. I mean, if your 7-year-old daughter is dancing on a strip pole and you're giving your 7-year-old daughter future liposuction, vouchers, that's clearly for publicity.
Right.
So I don't know.
I think I didn't know the story. I wondered what that meant.
It got a lot of attention because
that's great.
Well, she was
I'm
dreadful.
proud of you. I really am.
You would not have liked her, believe me.
So if you get up in the middle of this interview, I'm in trouble.
No. I've never done anything like that before, nor do I plan. Ideally, I would have
been able to finesse it.
I would have canceled her before she came on.
Yeah, right. So it happens.
It happens.
Okay, this is from Emma. Why do you choose to keep your hair gray? Have you ever considered dyeing it?
Well, at this point, I feel like if I dyed my hair, everyone on the planet would know.
We go, look, and he dyed his hair.
Right. There's the guy with the dyed hair, as opposed to now there's the old-looking guy with the gray hair. And also, like 10 years ago, I asked the guy who cuts my hair at the time what it would take to like color it, and like I've seen people in salons like. Guys sitting there with like tinfoil in their hair, like reading old copies of Rosie for hours, and it just seemed depressing. So I'm vain, but I'm not that vain. So I just decided, you know what? And you know what? If Phil Donahue was rocking it for a long time, and it works for him. So
how old were you when you turned gray?
I started going gray when I was like 21, 22. Yeah, it started as a spot here, and then it just spread.
Right.
And, by sort of 30, I was really.
Was that your dad too?
Yeah, and my mom too, and mysteriously they both got darker hair as
that's
they
right.
aged. But
so did my father.
Yes,
he kept getting darker.
But in my mind, I still don't like. I still kind of think it's salt and pepper. I'm clinging to
not
the
anymore.
pepper.
No,
yeah,
it's not.
Thank you for breaking that.
You're now a Q-tip. Yes. You're a little Q-tip.
Yeah.
No, I like Q-tips. I'm married to one. I think it's cute.
I don't know. I'm not wild about it.
You're in the right house for it. Let me just put it that way. Okay. This is from Sean. Hello, Sean. I admire your stand on anti-bullying, Anderson. How do you think we can beat this bullying epidemic? And have you ever been bullied?
I was lucky. I went to a school where there was certainly bullying. I wasn't really the focus of it. And I don't think there's any easy answer for how it can be overcome. But I do think, one of the things when you look at studies about bullying, it's not as simple as there are bullies and there are victims. When sociologists who have done these studies, and we've done a number of them at CNN, will find that people who bully are also victimized, and people really bully to try to move up in a social hierarchy.
Right, they're like the monkeys do, and the primates do that.
Right, yeah,
they really do.
Although it's you make fun of somebody who's either slightly higher or slightly lower than you, so you can kind of move up in a social hierarchy. I do think one of the things is that to change the dynamic in schools where bullying is no longer accepted and where other people intervene. And I think that a lot of kids have a lot of power to be interveners, to intervene and stop bullying and send the message that it is not appropriate, it's not okay, it's not acceptable, and that can actually, I think, change the dynamic.
Right. Yeah. To change.
And I think schools have to take it seriously.
Right. They don't take enough responsibility.
Yeah, and all the times they'll say, well, we had a bullying
Incident?
meeting, once a year, but it's got to be more than once a year.
Right.
It's got to be an ongoing conversation.
It's got to be every time it happens.
Yeah.
Right. And to change the bystander into an intervener, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think you should. Yes, but kids have more power than they realize to stop it and to kind of change the dynamic.
Right, I think so too. This is from Matthew. Can you describe one thing you've seen that changed your life, and how did it change your life? Gosh, you've seen so many things in so many countries. Is there something you've seen?
Certainly, I was in the genocide in Rwanda in '94, and for a very brief time, and I had been covering the Mandela election in South Africa and went directly to Rwanda and crossed over from Tanzania and hooked up with the RPF, who were the Rwandan Patriotic Front, who were the ones who ultimately stopped the genocide. They run the country now. And I guess for me, the question of what changed my life. I think for me, seeing that level of violence in Rwanda, 800,000 to 1 million people killed in 100 days, and it was very intimate killing. It wasn't bombs and bullets. It was machetes and clubs and neighbors killing neighbors, and it just made me realize that we're all capable of anything. That we all like to think that we're not. We all like to think that we wouldn't be capable of committing some great atrocity. But I think if the electricity stops and the air conditioning goes out and you start to get hungry, things change very, very quickly in society.
You can't feed your children.
Yeah, and you start to do things that you didn't think you could do or ever would do. And so I think that, to me, that was very eye-opening and impactful. And that, that it's all, that we all have the power to make choices in these situations, and we can choose to commit acts of brutality and barbarism, and we can choose to commit acts of compassion and kindness, and that the choice is up to us.
That's interesting. This is from David. Does it ever get a little frustrating working with Kathy Griffin? Or are you looking forward to another New Year's Eve with her? What's it like? Do you really not know what she's going to say?
I do not know what she's going to say, ever. I prefer it that way because I like to, therefore, if there's some legal problem, I like to be able to avow any knowledge. I like working with her. I mean, I've said this before, but it's very cold out on New Year's Eve, but I never sweat more than I do in that hour and a half that I'm standing with
Is that
Kathy
one of your
Griffin.
fear busters you need?
Yes, I guess. I guess.
And she's such a good friend of your mother's, who's this elegant icon.
I know, it's so weird.
The
it's
two
so
of them,
strange.
I can't
It's very
imagine.
strange. And they talk about the raunchiest stuff together and like sex stuff. And
Oh, that's so
I mean,
funny.
it's really, it amazes me. Yeah, I don't understand the basis of their friendship. But like, I mean, literally, I will call over there and my mom will be like, I can't talk now, Kathy's here.
Oh, that's
They're like,
hilarious.
Oh, okay.
That's so funny. I invited her for dinner once, and she said, no, I'm going to Gloria Vanderbilt for dinner, and I laughed. I thought she was kidding. And then she said, no, I am. I said, Gloria Vanderbilt wants to be with you? I can't believe that.
It's a very strange friendship, but I'm glad, they...
That's funny.
Yeah.
And you're the reason they met?
Yeah, my mom called me up after one New Year's Eve, actually. Called me up right after, to wish me Happy New Year's and say that she really liked watching the show. And I think Kathy grabbed the phone or
did she?
something. And they started talking on the phone then. And then my mom is a huge fan of Kathy. She thinks she's really funny.
She
and
is
likes her.
funny.
And she calls her fantasy daughter, which I
Oh,
don't
how
quite understand.
cute.
Yeah.
She wants to tame her, maybe. Or
I
she wants to
don't know.
let
I'm
Kathy
not
make
sure.
her wild.
I don't know. Either
Maybe
one.
that. Either way, it's a marriage made in heaven. This is from Lainey. If you had to come up with one hashtag that described your everyday life, what would it be?
Wow, that's interesting.
That's a good question. You haven't been asked that before.
I have not been asked
We
that.
have a very interesting community out there.
One hashtag. The latest hashtag I used was I am old. Which
No.
was, because I was looking for. Someone asked me what I was going to do this weekend, and I said, I'm planning just to catch up on sleep. And
Right.
Hashtag I am old.
Oh, that's funny.
So that's sort of, I don't know.
That's this weekend.
That's this weekend, yeah. I don't know what else.
Well, we'll come back
I'll
to
try to
it.
think
You
of something,
get to
yeah.
think of that. This is from Pauline. What are some tips for staying safe in a dangerous area? Not all of us go to the places you go to, but we all have dangerous neighborhoods.
Well, that's interesting because a lot of times the places that are really dangerous, they don't seem dangerous. Like you wouldn't necessarily realize they're very dangerous.
Right.
There's nothing. There's obviously no sign that's saying
Right,
it's
right.
dangerous in some of these places. So a lot of it is just knowing local knowledge and having talked with people about what's dangerous and what's not. I do think having a certain amount of confidence in yourself and how you present yourself, and not, if in that situation in Egypt when we had been attacked, had we run and projected fear, it would have made it worse.
Right.
And so I do think there's something to be said for not projecting an attitude, but just projecting a sort of quiet confidence. Is as if you know where you're going, you know what you're doing, you have a reason for being someplace.
But for the average person who's in a dangerous neighborhood, is there safety in numbers? Maybe don't go alone.
Well, it's certainly that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would. I'm really not good at judging what's dangerous and not, though. I mean, people ask me for instance, I like Brazil and Rio, and people say, oh well, I've heard Rio's really dangerous. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't think it's dangerous at all. And I guess statistically, there is some crime, there is crime and stuff, but. My threshold for what is dangerous is totally out of whack.
I was going to say, yeah.
So I'm the last. I mean, I went diving with great white sharks and for 60 Minutes and CNN. So my idea of what dangerous is, I'm sort of the worst person to ask.
No,
I guess.
you're a good person to ask for that reason. This is from Jim. Hello, Jim. Thanks for coming. Having accomplished so much at a young age, what are some goals you want to reach by the time you're 50? We've got 5 years, right?
5 years, yeah. Well, my dad actually died at 50, so I have been.
Oh, wow.
I always assumed I would sort of die by 50,
Oh.
and so I'm sort of. That's my goal, is to not die by 50. So
That's a good one.
Yes, yeah. So
Was your dad ill? Very ill?
he had heart disease. I mean, he had like a family, so he has a bad like genetic history and stuff. And he was from Mississippi, and I think he ate terribly.
Oh,
and,
right,
a lot of
right.
fried foods and stuff, and people didn't really know much about cholesterol back then. And he
Was
died
your
at
father
78.
raunchy? Is that maybe why your mother likes Kathy
No,
Griffin?
she wasn't. I don't think he was raunchy. I mean, he was more of a Southern storyteller.
Oh, I see.
He always sort of captivated the room and was the one who told stories.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was very funny. But so what are my goals for the time I'm 50?
Well, one thing is to live.
One thing would be to live past
Right,
50.
I think that's very good.
Yes,
That's
that
a
would
good
be,
goal.
Yes, and to be like healthy and also just to I never really have much of a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, but I do believe very much in sort of following your gut instinct and following and trying to do stuff that you're passionate about, because I think it's only if you're able to actually work on something that you're passionate about, then you'll be able to work harder than everyone else, which is what it takes to
Right.
ultimately succeed, however you define success.
Right.
So I just think that whatever I'm going to be doing, if past 50, would be, I just hope it's that I'm learning new things every day, and that I'm learning new skills, and that that I have variety in my life. That's why I wanted to start a daytime show, because after reporting for 20 years, I like the idea of telling stories in a different way.
Right, yeah.
And so I just like to keep trying new things.
I agree. You keep moving.
Yeah,
They
keep
can't
moving.
get you if you're a moving target,
That's
right?
true, yes.
This is from Stacy. You've traveled all over the world, and I'm wondering what's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen.
Wow.
What's the most beautiful place you've ever been, do you think?
I mean, there's so many. Rwanda is actually incredibly beautiful. It's very mountainous, and because land is there's so little of it, people farm all the way up the mountain. So you have all these terrace
that must be
plateaus. Yeah, it's a
beautiful.
little bit like Java in that way. And there's amazing mist, and you can go see these mountain gorillas in Rwanda. And where else? I mean, there's so many. You can find beauty kind of wherever you go.
Yeah.
I mean, Rome, I think, is one of the most beautiful cities.
Have you ever been to a rainforest? I've never been to the
plenty. Yeah.
Yeah?
Really, you've never been at
I've
all?
never.
Oh wow, yeah. No, there's great one. I mean, Costa Rica is an easy trip to do.
My brother and family went there.
Costa Rica is I was always reticent because I thought it was kind of overly touristic because so many people went, but I went and I had a great time there. I was in a huge rainforest in Cameroon. We're tracking zoonotic viruses that jump from animals to humans, like HIV. And they've actually discovered that's where HIV started, in southeastern Cameroon back in prior to 1908, which I find fascinating.
The monkeys, right?
Yeah, went from a chimp. There was a chimp to, they believe it's chimp to human transmission, and it was likely a chimp that ate a number of other kind of monkeys. But the fact that it was actually, I don't know why I'm digressing on this, but the fact that it actually jumped to humans first prior to 1908, I find amazing.
It is. Yeah, that's why you told us.
That's why I told you.
That's the business you're
I've just
in.
been reading this book about zoonotic viruses.
You told us stuff. I
yes.
like learning that.
Right.
So a beautiful thing you've seen was...
Well, I'd say Rwanda is. Also, I was in Namibia about 2 years ago for vacation, which is in the south west of Africa, above South Africa, and it's like Mars. It's a desert landscape, and it's incredibly beautiful.
I always like the certain times of day and the light and the mist.
Yeah, the
of
light's
places.
incredible. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, in America, I think New Orleans is one of the most beautiful cities.
It is.
And so yeah.
Great. Okay, this is from Paul. What is a place you'd never want to go back to again? That's the opposite of what's most beautiful.
Place I would never want to go back to. Wow. Well, even the places that are really bad. I mean, I've spent a fair amount of time in Somalia. 20 years ago, that's where I sort of started my reporting, and I was just back there this past fall. And when there's famine, and there's been fighting nonstop there, and it's not an easy place. It's destroyed. I mean, Mogadishu is destroyed, and people have been at war for 20 years, and that's not a place that I look forward to going back to. But at the same time, I mean, for work, I like going to places which I'm not comfortable in, or they're not pleasant to go to, but there's some extraordinary stories, and I do think it's important to kind of shine a light on what's happening in some places that people don't think about very much or don't go to very much.
When you go to a place like that, I'm sure you've done a lot of scouting as to what your stories are going to be when you get there. But
Not
are there
really,
a lot of spontaneous
actually. Yeah,
stories?
it's because I think if you have it all, I mean, you can do all the research you want, but anything you come up with in advance is not going to be as good as things you find when
Right,
you're actually there.
right.
And I try not to go to a place with too much of an idea in my mind because I want to see it with fresh eyes.
Right.
So, you have some people that okay, there's a doctor in this hospital, or there's this hospital that you want to go to,
Right.
but you have to be open to completely throwing that out and seeing where the day takes you.
Right.
That's I found where the best experiences come from as a reporter, just not knowing where you're going to put your camera, or thinking, in Haiti during the earthquake, in the aftermath of the earthquake, we were there for a month, and every day we'd talk the night before about, okay, well, I think we'll go to the cemetery today, and you walk out the front door and you think you're going to go to the cemetery, but then somebody passes you by and they become the story that you follow that day.
Yeah. Improv. It's an
Yes,
improv.
yes.
That's what we do in my business. This is from Jan. Given all the travel you've done, if you had one final one-way ticket, what destination would you choose?
Wow.
These
I have
people
one
really want to
final
know.
one-way ticket.
Right.
Huh.
Probably a little young for this one, right?
No, well, I got 5 more years
That's
on my
right.
clock. So give me a tell you if you had one final one-way ticket. Well, so this is if basically this is the place where I'm going to go to die. Is what the question is. It's
Right.
nicely worded, but if I had one final one-way ticket,
Well,
what
or you want to
destination?
spend the rest of your life
Well,
there.
I would have to say New York City.
Really?
I mean, I honestly don't think there's any city which is as great as New York in the entire world. And
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it's got just an amazing mix of people and history, and it's it's where I was born, so it feels like home to me more than
Right.
any other place. Other places I could see living. I mean, I think Rome is a great city.
Yes.
But I don't know that I could live there for final. I mean, I think New York.
This is your final
That's
place.
the final answer. New York. New York City.
Okay. This is from Justin. Oh, I can't wait to hear this. Who was the craziest guest or interview? Not the best, not the worst,
craziest.
but the craziest.
Oh wow. Well, on the see, we've had some. I don't want to use the word crazy because it sounds very judgmental. But one of the, I guess, most unusual guests this past year on the daytime show, we had. I had a woman, a doctor named Mary Hamer, who's a radiologist from Florida, who was giving financial support to Joran Vandersloot, who ultimately was convicted of murdering a young woman in Peru. Also, is suspected in the death of Natalie Holloway. And she's a radiologist. But she feels she saw him on television and became convinced that she is meant to be his guardian angel.
Oh my.
And so she has been giving money, like $75,000, I think it was, and she went down to Peru to meet with him, and she has been supportive. She believes he's innocent.
Oh my.
Yeah, so we had her on the show actually twice. And she
Well,
was,
that
she was
fits.
interesting. I wouldn't say I don't want to say crazy because I don't think she's crazy in any way. But I think she was. I found her. I mean, I always find it interesting to try to walk in someone else's shoes and to try to understand where somebody is coming from, and that's why I can talk to people who I totally disagree with or don't even like. That doesn't matter because I do think I'm trying to understand how somebody else sees something.
Right.
That's how I tend to approach everything.
No, that's good.
And so to me, it was interesting to try to understand what about this guy did she focus on that makes her believe she's his guardian angel.
Right, exactly.
I found that interesting.
So she had voices, maybe. This is from Wade Williams. If you ever got a tattoo, what would it be?
I would like to get a tattoo.
You would?
I've been wanting to get a tattoo for like 20 years.
But your mother won't let
no,
you.
No, I can't figure out what to get. And so I don't want to wind up like, with some misspelled Chinese character that I don't understand and doesn't mean what I'm told.
Where
it
would you
means.
put it?
Well,
Could you see it or on your behind where nobody can see it?
I don't know, on the shoulder maybe or on the inner part of the arm.
Oh, you've given this some thought.
I know. I've seriously considered.
yeah?
it. I just don't know what I like writing. But I don't know. I'm not sure. So if
All right.
anybody has any ideas, please
Okay,
let
well,
me
we're going to
know.
get a little booklet.
I actually on the daytime show had a thing where there are actually tattoo sleeves you can buy.
Oh, I've seen
that
those.
look as if
Yeah,
you
I've
have,
seen those.
And I just as a joke I had them on, and to this day I get like tweets from people thinking that I really my arms are
that's
completely.
funny.
tattooed.
I've seen those.
Yeah.
This
Do you
is
have a
from-
tattoo?
No.
Does Phil?
No. Phil would be the last person.
Really?
The last. Mr. Irish Catholic. No, he would never.
Wow. Maybe you and I can get a tattoo one day.
Together.
Yeah.
Can you describe one thing you've seen? Didn't we do this? Yes.
I could do. I could
One
do
thing
another.
you've seen that changed your life. The other one was one beautiful thing
Right. One thing that's changed my life.
that you've seen.
That I've seen.
Well, have you ever seen anything that kind of changed your mind? Maybe that would be about
Well, I mean, all the
something.
time. I mean, I think I mentioned before Rwanda and sort of realizing that we're all capable of anything. But, also, I mean, the other thing I see it, and I see it all the time. So it's not really just one thing, but I guess I saw it in Hurricane Katrina. I saw it in the earthquake in Haiti of just strangers reaching out to other strangers and saving their lives. And in the midst of tragedy, we all kind of focus and think about the horror that we see, but there's incredible acts of humanity, and that I find life changing. I mean, that I find the idea that somebody who's lost family members will spend hours digging through the rubble with their bare bloody hands in order to save the life of someone they don't even know.
Right.
And that often in those moments of extreme emergency, it really is up to individuals. It's not the government. In Haiti, the Haitian police force wasn't around in the first couple of days.
And it's also surprising, isn't it? Because we're kind of bombarded with the cruelty people do to others. That when you see that kind of selflessness, it boosts you up again.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is life changing. I think it's life affirming, and I
Right.
think it's an important thing to remember and focus on.
It's a great thing to see yourself
it really
rather
is.
than hear about it.
Yeah.
If you actually saw somebody going in and pulling
Right.
people out, that is a great experience. This is from Elena. Who was your favorite CNN hero of all time? Well, it doesn't be all time, but your favorite CNN hero.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of difference do you think ordinary people can make in tackling critical issues and inspiring others?
We do this program, CNN Heroes, every year,
I know.
and I don't think there's. I wouldn't name one particular person because I don't want to make the others feel bad.
Right.
But I cannot believe how inspiring these CNN heroes are, and I do think, to me, the lesson of that CNN Heroes program is that it really is up to individuals to make changes, and individuals can make incredible changes in other people's lives. That all of these CNN heroes are people who they don't have access to power, they don't have access to money.
Right.
They just saw a need. And they just started to do it, opening up their own home to create a school in their home in Malawi, as one woman did, or starting to feed neighborhood children, and it grows and it grows and it grows. And I find that incredibly inspiring. And we all think, well, there's not much I can do about something, or I see a need, but I don't really know how to start. These people just start and they do it, and they make it work, and that I find amazing.
And that really does teach us all that we can do it. Here's a question everybody wants to know from David. Hello, David. How do you keep TV trim and how do you keep healthy with such a demanding schedule? Do you have any tips?
Do I have any tips?
Tips. Our audience loves tips.
Well, I'm not a big foodie, so that helps. Yeah, I don't care about food.
Really?
So, yeah, I eat the same meal every day.
What is it?
Well, it changes, but I'll eat. So for earlier this year, for about 5 months, I was eating Boston Market grilled turkey every day for lunch.
Oh, God.
With 2 sides of corn and cornbread, sometimes mashed potatoes.
Where did you have this?
At Boston Market.
Oh, I didn't
There's several
know.
in the city.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
I'll take you there one day.
Okay.
There's one in 23rd.
When we get our
Street,
tattoo, we can go there.
Yes, I have a gift cards.
Okay.
So I was eating that. I would eat that. And I've done this my entire life since I was a kid. I'll eat one food for months at a time, and then I'll get sick of it. And now I've moved on to, for lunch, I eat a grilled chicken wrap from a deli nearby, and I eat oatmeal for breakfast, and that's.
And do you not eat sweets?
I love sweets, yes, I do. But now I'm trying to stop because because my dad's has bad heart disease, so I try to eat. I've always tried to eat really healthy.
And you don't smoke?
I don't smoke. I really don't drink much alcohol at all. Occasionally I have a glass of wine now. Which is more of a recent development. But and I just tried a few cocktails for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
They're not bad. I kind of see the appeal. I kind of get, and I work out and I run and stuff.
Oh, you work out?
I do, yeah.
Oh, and you run. Now, that's a big thing. And you're obsessive about it.
A little bit, yeah.
Well, this is a tip.
That's a tip.
That's a tip.
It's nothing all. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not
it's all
not a
tips.
real
No, it
not
is.
brain surgery.
No, I know, but we like to know. And what are some tips John wants to know on reaching your goals, and how do you keep your eye on the prize, no matter how difficult the journey is?
Tips on reaching goals. How to keep your eye on the prize. Well, I don't really know what the prize is, but
Probably just what you want.
yeah, I mean, look, I'm incredibly blessed to be able to, be doing something that I love and to have, been able to make a career out of it. But it's interesting. I think for me the hardest time in life was the year after graduating college and I think it's a really tough time for people when I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't really know how to go about doing what I wanted.
What did you major in? Journalism?
Majored in political science, and and I took a year off. My brother had committed suicide my senior year of college, and so last year was kind of a blur. I didn't apply for any jobs. I didn't have any intern. Well, actually, yeah, I didn't have any. I had interned at a couple places, but nothing that I really wanted to do after college. And then I came up with this idea of trying to be a reporter, and I had a friend make a fake press pass for me, and I borrowed a camera, and I started going to wars. But
Started going to war.
it's true. That was the idea. That was the thing. So I don't know. I can't remember what the question was. But how do I keep your eyes on the prize?
Yeah, the prize.
I don't know. I don't really have much of a forward vision. I tend to kind of make decisions based on my gut and what feels interesting at the time.
Right.
Like I don't know necessarily where something's going to lead, but I feel like if I'm taking steps that are interesting to me now, then over time it will lead to somewhere.
That's right. Yeah, in movement. This is from Hal. What's the top of your list of personal frustrations?
Top of my list of personal frustrations. Gosh, I don't know.
That's okay. You don't have to be frustrated. Just because everybody else is frustrated doesn't mean you have to be
Are you very frustrated?
No, I'm actually
personal
not.
Frustrations. Yeah, I don't.
I beat up anything that frustrates me.
Yeah, I mean, I really do believe in not letting fear rule you, and I believe in diving headfirst into the things that scare you most. And when you do that, things don't. I don't know. I'm not frustrated. I wish I was. I don't know. In better shape. I wish I was, didn't have gray hair. I wish I,
You look great in gray hair.
whatever.
What are you talking
But
about?
we all have things that we like to have different about us.
Right.
But overall, I don't know. I don't see the point of being frustrated.
Good.
If you're frustrated about something, I feel like you should make the change.
You should fix it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
fix it.
This is from Marianne, which is a good question. She'd like to know if you think the media can play a role in challenging political candidates who completely distort the truth about other candidates. Do you think that
Sure, of course.
you have that
I mean,
responsibility? Do you press somebody?
I
when
think
you...
that is the responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing more frustrating for viewers when you see somebody being interviewed and the reporter asks a question, the candidate doesn't answer the question, they answer the question they wanted you to ask.
Right.
And then the reporter just moves on to the next question
Right.
that they've written down. I find that very frustrating. I'm a big believer in just repeatedly going back to the exact same question over and over again, and if it annoys the person or whatever, then so be it. I think.
But if you know that what they're saying is a distortion,
I think it's your obligation to say what is factually correct.
Right, yeah.
I don't believe in like showing. I try not to show a political bias, and I think bias is a real concern and a real issue that all reporters need to tackle and wrestle with. And we talk about it every day in our newsroom about how we're going about telling a particular story. But I think there are facts, and I think your job is to get out the facts and to stick to the facts. And so I tried to do that very much. And it's interesting to me because now with things so polarized, one night if I do a story that is calling the Obama administration out on something which they've said which is not factually correct, I get inundated with tweets from people saying I'm a mouthpiece of the GOP.
Right.
And the next night or in the same program, I'll do a story about
Right.
something Mitt Romney has said that it's not factually correct, and I'll get inundated with
Right.
by conservatives
Right.
saying I'm a liberal, a communist, or whatever.
Right.
And so it's interesting to me just how I'm not sure there is that space now for kind of
Yes.
holding both sides accountable.
Right.
I think people kind of tend to now watch a network that they agree with on one side or the other.
Yeah.
And I think at least at CNN, I think should try, and I view my role as trying to, keep both sides on.
and hold their feet to the fire when
Yeah.
they're not. Let's see here. AC360 has done a number of charity investigations. This is from Danny, looking at everything from veterans to animals. What goes into these investigations? Are you initially tipped off that there may be an issue?
Right.
Is that how it
Yeah,
starts?
we're actually right now in the midst of doing a number of investigations on a variety of different charities who basically what they all seem to have in common, and most of the reporting, all the reporting has been done by this guy Jude Griffin, who's a CNN correspondent, who's a great reporter. They basically, in order to, a lot of these are small charities, which in order to boost their fundraising and get a bigger mailing list, they sign a contract with this company called Quadriga Art. And Quadriga Art basically helps them boost, basically get a bigger mailing list together. But these companies end up, all the money that they end up raising ends up going to Quadriga Art for years and years and years. So there's a charity called the DVNF, the Disabled Veterans National Foundation, DVNF. And they've raised $56 million over 3 years, allegedly for disabled veterans, but we have not been able to find one penny that's actually gone to disabled
awful.
veterans. It's all gone, the $56 million has all gone to Quadriga Art for their fundraising. And so, based on this contract that they have. And we found a number of charities which have signed contracts with this company that the millions they've raised have all gone back to this fundraiser.
So the only point is to get a bigger mailing list?
Right. And so, so even though they've raised $56 million, what DVNF does is they'll get gifts in kind. They'll get they got, I don't know, something like 11,000 bags of coconut M&Ms. And they sent those.
That's way better than 56 million.
And they sent those to various veterans groups. So they've said that they're sending much needed supplies to veterans groups, when in fact they're sending coconut M&Ms. They also sent Navy dress shoes, and not things that no veterans group had asked for.
God.
Yeah, so.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're doing it.
Yeah, it's really important. I mean,
That's good. Have you ever had a woman boss, Jane wants to know? Was it threatening? Did you ever have a woman boss?
I mostly had women bosses.
Really?
Yeah. And when I got hired at Channel 1, I had a woman boss, and she hired me to begin with. She's the first person who had faith in me. And at ABC, my bosses were pretty much all women. And at CNN...
But you liked your mom, so that's...
Yeah,
usually guys who like their mothers don't have problems.
Do guys find women bosses threatening?
Yes.
The idea would never even occur to me.
Yeah, well, that's because you had a good mother.
Is that really what it boils down to?
I'm sure
really?
of it. I'm sure of it.
I buy that.
Every man I ever met that had troubles with women had a mother that was a harridan. They just, that's what they see. It's like the Thurber cartoon of this big woman.
It never occurred to me that it would be threatening, and that's
oh, you're the perfect man.
No, I don't know about that.
My husband's like that too. He had all women in his field. Trish wants to know, how did you cope after your brother's death? This is important because so many people lose family members.
Yeah.
How do you mind talking about
No,
this?
no, not at all. My brother committed suicide the summer before my senior year of college. And
He was how old?
He was 2 years ahead of me, so he was about 23. And he killed himself in front of my mom.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it was, kind of a complete shock. I mean, it was a complete shock. And, I think suicide, that's the thing about it, is that you're left asking why, and sometimes there isn't any why. Sometimes there is no answer to that question. I think that's one of the things that people who are survivors of suicide, who have had loved ones who commit suicide, wrestle with, is sort of getting to the place where you don't have to have an answer to that question why. And that takes a while to get to that place.
Did you talk to somebody about it?
I didn't initially, and then later on I did. And my mom has been to bereavement support groups,
Right.
Which I didn't like the idea of a group for some reason.
Right.
But
I don't either.
But she got a lot of solace out of talking with other people in a group.
And could you two talk about it, you and your mom?
Yeah, we could, especially in the first. I mean, yes, we did talk about it a lot, and it was a complete shock. I mean, I was very much worried about her, obviously, at the time, and she had witnessed it, and I didn't know how that was going to impact her.
Right.
But it's interesting. I mean, it never goes away. It's not and it really is the thing that motivated me to start going to wars and to start going to places where other people were in pain, and because I wanted to be places where, the pain that I was feeling inside was kind of matched by the pain I was witnessing outside. And it really is what propelled me into the career that I chose to, because I kind of wanted to be around others who had learned the language of loss and who sort of spoke the language of loss. And also with suicide, it's not something that people hear talk about very much in sort of polite company. It's not. It freaks people out, and people get very uncomfortable about it. So I initially, when I started going to wars, I wanted to be around places where, you know, life and death was very, very real for people, and where people talked about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You can help other people with their pain because you understand pain.
Well, I don't know how much help with others, but I mean.
Rita wants to know if you ever want to have children.
I would like to have kids, yeah. I mean, I don't know, I go through periods where yes and then sometimes no.
Like everybody else in the world.
Yeah.
This is from Molly. Molly says she loved the show The Mole. I never saw The Mole. You have to tell me about that. And what happened with that?
So there was, I was at ABC News for like 6 years, and then, or give or take, and then up till about 2000, and then head of ABC Entertainment at the time asked me if I wanted to host this reality show that was going to be on ABC called The Mole, and it was sort of hard to describe. I don't even know.
Well, isn't a mole something
No,
like a spy?
Yeah, like a spy. So it was, it's too
So you were the
convoluted.
spy?
No, there was somebody who was like, it was, I don't know. It's not worth going into.
Okay, all right.
But
Well, what happened to it? At least
it was on for 2 seasons, and then and it, you know, it didn't do great. It did okay, I guess. But it had a very loyal. The people who liked it really, really liked it to this day.
Well,
like
Molly's
it.
never
Molly,
forgot
apparently, yeah. But then when 9/11 happened, CNN approached me about working at CNN, and I was able to get out of. I didn't want to do the mole anymore, and actually Kathy Griffin then I think. There was a celebrity mole after that. Oh,
really?
And Kathy Griffin, I think, hosted it. She won it one year and maybe hosted another year.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, we are completely we've been. One last question. Did you ever watch Free to Be You and Me when you were a kid?
Of course I did.
You did?
Yes, I did.
And did you make you free?
Did it make me free? Yes, and yeah, I did. It did. I mean, I think I kind of feel like I grew up watching you. And yeah.
Did your mom buy it for you, or you got it at school?
I can't remember where. I mean, I feel like it was just omnipresent.
Yes,
I don't know where.
was.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it was everywhere.
Yeah, William Wants a Doll. What was your favorite?
God, let me think. Oh, man, I don't know.
You know, we have that great clip of you that we've used on. We have a laugh of the day.
Oh, the
and there's
giggle
that
thing,
clip
I
where you
know.
fell over laughing, you couldn't stop.
I know.
I defy anybody to watch that and upgrade that. It's just so funny.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I giggle like a 12-year-old girl.
It was great. No, we all do. It was terrific to have you.
Hey,
It was
thank you. It was
worth
really a
the
pleasure.
wait. You're
Yeah.
just adorable.
Thank you. Anytime.
Don't ever dye your hair.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next Monday.